What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jared, and this is Jared's Books. Today, I'm going to be doing a book review of one of my early 2025 rides reads this year. I think it was one of the first reads I had of the new year, and I'm talking about Norman Ohler's Tripped: Nazi Germany, the CIA, and the Dawn of the Psychedelic Age. This is a really good book. It's really good nonfiction. Comes in at only 177 pages. You could easily knock this out in maybe a couple days or something like that. I think this one took me about a week, maybe just under a week. Norman Ohler does a fantastic job of his writing style is really good. He does a really good job of blending in personal experiences and historical fiction, and he puts them both in a very palatable to the reader experience. So you're getting the nonfiction information, but you're getting a very he always has something very personal, that to relate to. Like in Tripped, this book is mainly about the evolution of LSD and how it started out as a research pharmaceutical for the Swiss pharmaceutical company Sandoz, and it was being used in depression therapies and things like that. It talks about how LSD was accidentally discovered. It goes into the entire origins. It goes into the fungus that it infects in the fields that it comes from, and it's all extremely interesting. And then it delves into post-war Nazi Germany, or I guess it wouldn't have been Nazi Germany anymore, but it talks about the very weird kind of how how former Nazi Germany was being occupied. And it was kind of split up between the Allied forces. There was like a British ruled area, there was a U.S. Ruled area, there was a Russian ruled area, and they all kind of had their different enforcements on narcotics, which kind of boomed post-war, and there was a real problem with narcotics and drug trafficking and things like that. It kind of weaves that into the Sandoz experiment. The narrative through this is he's kind of like going on a visit to a archive to get more information from about the Sandoz company and their experimentation with LSD and labs and stuff like that on it. With the Nazi Germany aspect, it talks about how the Nazis were actively experimenting with not only LSD, but they were experimenting with mescaline, which is another very potent psychedelic. And what they were trying to do with these is develop a truth serum, because it seems people were a little bit more open when under the influence of LSD and mescaline. So post-war Nazi Germany, the Third Reich has fallen, and you have the U.S., Great Britain, France to a lesser extent, and Russia, all in post-Nazi Germany, and they start finding files on the experimentation results for the mescaline and for the LSD particularly. So in the United States, the CIA then imports all of the data from the LSD experiments, and and then I guess this is another book, and with Operation Paperclip, when we basically took every Nazi scientist, even some of them were former SS, and brought them over to develop US programs. We used a lot of their data for their mescaline and LSD research, and we started piloting here in the United States, started piloting our own uh, operatives researching LSD. The most notably is going to be Operation MK Ultra, which I talk about at length and is reviewed at length in the book Chaos by Tom O'Neill, in where the CIA was actively experimenting on non-aware participants with LSD. They were drugging people that didn't know it. One of the sub operations for MK Ultra was Operation Midnight Climax, which they had a CIA staged brothel, and they were giving Johns LSD and monitoring them through two-way mirrors. Um, in addition to that, with MK Ultra, the Charlie Manson question starts coming into question if he was a CIA operative that had been actually trained by Dr. Jolly West on how to do these kind of mind control experimentations using LSD. And that's how he was so prolific at recruiting for the family, his cult, which later went on to commit the La Bianca and Tate murders in the late 60s. So I know that's a word, that's a wordful, but that's what it goes into. And then it talks more about how those experimentations started leading into the uh, criminalization aspect of LSD. We started looking at it as a, instead of a therapeutic, as a foreign substance that should be outlawed, or I guess only used in the hands of the government. And that kind of leads and segues into the war on drugs, which is a drastic failure, in my opinion, and a incredible waste of taxpayer money. So it talks a lot about that. And where it's really cool with his narrative is it gets very personal, with Norman Ohler talking about his personal journey with his mother, his aging mother who has Alzheimer's, and her microdosing experimentations with LSD and psilocybin, and the effects that the positive effects that she sees, that they all see, his family, from her doing this microdosing with LSD and easing excuse me, her Alzheimer's symptoms. It's a great book. Uh, it doesn't push too hard on any kind of narrative, and the reason I think I like it so much, like other nonfictions, is it there's a ton of information in here, but it never comes off as a data dump or a works cited page. Norman Ohler does a great job, and when he is really breaking into the technical aspects of LSD, and there's a lot of name dropping going on with like old Nazi scientists, U.S. things. There's a couple cameos in here, like with Timothy O'Leary and Elvis Presley, and he always finds a good way to meld it in. It never really feels like you're reading a works cited, so I really liked it. So I wanted to give this book review. If I had to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a solid 7. It's definitely worth picking up and worth giving a read. It's also not very long, and it's good. He also has another book out called Blitzed, which goes into more about how Nazi Germany frontline soldiers were extremely jacked up on methamphetamine. And everything I've heard about it is really good. And I enjoyed his writing so much that I'll probably pick that one up. But I'm not really, I say that, I'm not really taking on any new reads until I finish my first novel that I'm about 75, 80% of the way through. I'm currently about 90% of the way through the first edit. I had to stop writing the story because I felt like I started writing something I wanted to happen at the end more in the middle. So I pulled this entire chunk out of my story and set it aside, and I went back to the beginning, and I'm reading and editing it, and then I will pick back up and then bring in that other piece later on. I don't know if that made sense. I think it only makes sense to me. I think the writing process kind of drives you a little bit crazy, but it's going. It's just a consistency factor. I think you have to stay consistent with your writing. I think you have to write every day to be good at it. It's just like anything else. It seems like practice and repetition really kind of hones the skills on it. And I think it's more of the uh, unforgiving crafts, in that if you go a day, you feel a separation from your story. You lose a continuity with it, and it's the whole process is pretty eye opening. What sucks is I have a better idea for another story, but I'm stuck making myself finish this one. If any of you are writing a novel, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear about your writing process, or if any of what I just described hits home to you, and love to hear about that. Let me know if any of you guys have read Tripped by Norman Ohler. Once again, highly recommend picking it up. It's a solid 7. Um, it's a great, I guess, out of, yeah, it's a 7. It's a 7. It's a good book. Go ahead and read it. It gets a lot of praise from Joe Rogan. I think that's where it gained a lot of notoriety. Norman Ohler's on the podcast a few times talking about LSD and criminalization of narcotics and psychedelics and that kind of thing. And if you're into that whole topic and that discussion, you're really gonna like it. If you are a World War II buff at all, which I kind of am. I like World War II stuff. I also really like the JFK conspiracies. I'd say those are my number one kind of nerd thing that I nerd out on is the entire JFK Camelot scene and conspiracy theory, and then would be World War II and kind of all the stuff that was going on, like Operation Paperclip and things like this with Nazi Germany's research on mescaline and LSD, and it's all really interesting. It's really cool stuff. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoy the content, I put out a video once a week. Go ahead and give me a like, give me a subscribe. And I never really prepare for these things. I just grab a book that I've read and we hit play and see what comes out of it. So let me know what you think. Comments are always welcome. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Keep reading. Talk soon.